Revealed, 10 spine-chilling Alaskan small-town horror stories that will haunt you forever. In Pine Hollow, Alaska, the first snow falls like a shroud, coating the town in ghostly white. The locals know that with every flake, darkness unfurls its claws. Strange happenings circulate like whispers on the wind. Cattle vanish from pens, homes echo with unexplainable noises, and a lingering chill afflicts even the most spirited residents. May, a single mother, recently grappling with her father's unexpected death, finds comfort in nothing but routine. But even that begins to fray dangerously. Haunted by the memories of her father, May sorts through his belongings, each item a specter pulling her deeper into grief. Among the clutter, she finds a worn leather-bound diary, its edges frayed, yellowed pages brittle beneath her fingertips. It promises secrets, each entry like a nail driven into her heart. With every turn, May uncovers stories that chill her to the bone, tales of townspeople who vanished without a trace, swallowed by the wilderness, feasted upon by something that lurks just beyond the edges of the known. Leave or face the darkness, the words leap out at her. Jace, her curious 11-year-old son, scrambles outside one day, unearthing a strange talisman shaped like a twisted, gnarled branch. A trinket of oddity, perhaps, but the moment his fingers brush its cold surface, a change unfolds before her eyes. Jace begins to whisper, his voice low, carrying secrets May isn't ready to hear. Nightmares plague him. Shadows bloom in the corners of rooms, creeping along the walls like an invitation to horror. As the nights grow longer, May's neighbors metamorphose from warm smiles to furtive glances and shivering silences. A knot of fear weaves through the fabric of their former camaraderie. What happened? May wonders, gripping the diary tighter as the snow begins to fall heavier, muffling everything, absorbing hope. Did we really leave our mark on this place? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. May becomes frantic. The diary reveals cycles of horror, an unbroken chain of betrayal and the sinister grip that the town has over its people. As Jace turns sullen, the warmth of their home twists into a chilling reminder of the lives lost to Pine Hollow's dark past. When the blood-red sunset signals the night, a message taunts May, scrawled in fear and urgency, leave or face the darkness. Panic swells as she looks for Jace, who bolts into the night, drawn towards the whispering woods that tease with shadows. The branches seem to sway with malicious intent as May races after him, heart pounding. The icy air stings her lungs, reality warping into a nightmare. Behind her, the whispers increase, becoming a cacophony of despair. Chills course through her, the echoes filling her with dread. She realizes she's not just fighting the elements but the very essence of Pine Hollow itself. Will she reach Jace in time? What waits for them in the depths of the snow-covered woods? The Arctic silence deepens, and a haunting laugh dances through the trees, trailing the darkness. May races against time, the town's blood-soaked history lingers, and survival feels like a distant dream. The cold bit into May's lungs as she plunged deeper into the woods, the shroud of snow swirling in the wind like spirits rising from their graves. Jace, she shouted, her voice breaking against the frozen trees. Panic clawed at her, sharp and biting, as she stumbled over the blankets of snow, heart racing faster than her legs could carry her. The shadows ensnared her vision, growing denser with every step. She could feel them watching, lurking just out of sight, as if the whole forest conspired against her. The echoes of her scream faded, and for a moment, the silence felt alive, a gaping mouth waiting to swallow her whole. Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the night, slicing the stillness like a knife. May's heart dropped. It was Jace. "Mom!" The cry reverberated, mingling with the haunting laughter that lingered in the frosty air. The sound was so close. He was out there, somewhere. She tore through the underbrush, following the anguished cries, each moment thick with dread. Jace's voice grew fainter, replaced by the insistent rustle of branches that creaked like ancient bones. The talisman, was it truly responsible for the changes in him? The dark stories whispered in old town tales clawed into her mind. What if he had unwittingly invited something sinister into their lives? Jace! She rasped out again, desperation clawing at her throat. The world felt foreign, twisted like she was caught in some grotesque version of her reality. One wrong turn, and she might face whatever horror the town had buried beneath layers of snow and secrets. A flicker of movement caught her eye, and she abruptly froze. The trees seemed to lean closer, the whistling wind muffling everything but her racing heart. A figure tall, dark, almost smudged against the snow stood between the gaps in the trees, watching. Something deep inside her warned her to run, to escape the gaze that felt predatory and cold. "Mom!" Jace's voice rose again, clearer this time. Hope ignited in her chest. She pushed forward, but with every step, the figure seemed to shift, impossibly closer, yet vanishing as she approached. An unnerving sensation twisted her gut. The woods vibrated with energy and electric fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was alive, breathing in tandem with the memories buried beneath the snow. The cries became a chorus, now echoing from various corners, melodies laced with agony. "Jace!" she called again, this time with more conviction, forcing her way through the menacing shadows. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The air thickened like a fog, wrapping around her. May felt it pressing against her skin, cold fingers trailing down her spine. Then it spoke, a low rumble like thunder rolling through the landscape, but it wasn't the wind. "Leave or face the darkness." The voice was insidious, slithering through her mind. It was utterly familiar, as if she'd heard it all her life, her father's voice. "No. Not you," she shouted, terror filling her. "You're gone." But the shadow lurched into view, features forming into something grotesque yet eerily like her father. It smiled, a maw of endless night. The laughter returned, shriller this time, wrapping around her like a cloak of dread. Jace was close. She had to find him. With sudden determination, she sprinted deeper into the woods, heart racing, each tree growing darker and darker. The final branches parted, and there he was, Jace, standing by an old, gnarled tree, talisman in hand, eyes wide with terror. "Mom!" He screamed, but something about his gaze felt distant, eerie. They're coming. What was he seeing? The world spun as shadows gathered like blaming hands. Fear gripped her heart. Whatever they were facing wasn't just folklore anymore, it was here, ready to claim them. The howls rose again, echoing. May reached for Jace, but the ground trembled beneath her, threatening to swallow them whole. In that moment, she knew they couldn't escape without facing whatever the darkness had planned for them. The forest held its breath, and so did she, caught between the echoes of despair and the rising tide of terror. Would Jace recognize the truth before it was too late? The branches quivered, waiting. What did they want from her son? May's heart pounded in her chest, drowning out the whispers of the forest. She barely registered the biting wind, her focus locked on Jace, standing there, motionless as the shadows danced around him. Something about his expression sent chills down her spine. It felt wrong, clouded by a flicker of something unknown. "Jace!" She took a step forward, but the ground beneath her shifted, a subtle tremor that echoed the heartbeat of the forest. His eyes darted, unfocused, as if he were staring past her into an abyss she couldn't see. "They're coming, Mom!" He shouted again, his voice strained, the talisman in his hand glinting ominously in the fleeting light. The wind howled, carrying with it the echoes of terror that sounded like laughter and cries, twisting together in a sickening symphony. "Jace!" She reached out again, but he stumbled back, as if something unseen pulled him. "Stay with me." The air thickened, heavy with dread. The shadows slithered closer, creeping along the snow, warping the world into a distorted nightmare. May felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her, hearing them. Something shifted between the trees, branches clawing at the sky like desperate fingers. Then it hit her, the stories, old tales of children who'd gone missing in these woods, claimed by darkness. No. This can't be happening. She shook her head, forcing herself to stay grounded, to stay with Jace. Mom, the talisman. Jace cried, his voice cracking. It's too powerful, it's drawing them near. A flash of panic surged through her. What do you mean? She demanded, her voice trembling as the shadows crept closer. The laughter intensified, becoming mocking, cruel. It's feeding them. He shouted, clutching the talisman like a lifeline. The darkness began to pulse, a swirling mist rising from the ground, creeping toward them in a greedy caress. We have to destroy it. Something deep within May twisted at those words. Wasn't that what his father had always said, too? The objects of power, they couldn't be trusted. But the thought of abandoning her son sent her into a whirl. What if the talisman was the only chance they had? Jace. She reached for him, grounding herself in the moment. Listen to me. We need to find a way out. Not destroy the talisman. But it was too late. The shadows erupted, gaping mouths forming in the air, hungry and hate-filled. Jace trembled in place, the talisman glowing brighter in his hand, illuminating the swirling mass of evil that surrounded them. Let me go. He screamed, the plea bursting forth from him like a wounded animal. You don't understand. No, I can't lose you. She took another step forward, the darkness swirling like a living thing, rising to consume them. Don't you dare let go. We'll find a way. We'll get out. As May lunged for him, the pulsating shadows coalesced into a figure. A grotesque parody of her father smiled back at her, wide and cruel. Join us, it whispered, 1,000 voices laced in the softest beckon. The branches of the trees twisted, and the world around them warped into a hellish landscape. With desperation gripping her heart, she called out, I choose my son. But even as she spoke, her voice felt like marble sinking into quicksand. The shadows grew thicker, and Jace's scream was swallowed by the darkness. The air crackled, charged with something malevolent. Mom! He cried, but the shadows wrapped around him, pulling him away. Panic surged as May fought against the pull, but saw the talisman's light flickering, dimming under the weight of the approaching dark. No! Jace! She lunged one last time, reaching for the fading light, hoping against hope for a spark of hope against the encroaching doom. And when a sharp crack echoed through the trees, she realized the forest had made its choice. Would Jace become a prisoner of the darkness, or could she reach him in time? The shadows twisted, closing in relentlessly, a relentless tide of despair. The ground quaked beneath her feet. This was only the beginning of their torment. What price would they pay to escape the forest's grasp? The ground shook violently, wrenching May from her thoughts. It felt like the earth itself was trying to spit her out, to rid itself of her presence. She stumbled, barely catching herself as she glanced back at Jace, who was now obscured by swirling shadows, his cries swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Jace! The desperation in her voice barely penetrated the chaos. The haunting laughter swirled around her, echoing off the trees, mingling with Jace's strange shouts until it became a maddening cacophony. She could barely breathe, the air thick like molasses, wrapping around her throat. May's heart raced. What if I let go? A voice in her head screamed. She'd heard the old tales, what the forest could do, how it could take you, rend you from reality until you were just another lost soul among the trees. But she was no stranger to fear. Fear was a creature she had fought too many times before. Suddenly, the shadows quivered, the figure of Jace dimly visible, his talisman glowing like a beacon. Its light pulsed, matching the beat of her heart. Each thud echoed a memory, his first steps, his first word, all the moments that led to this heart-wrenching night. "Hold on!" she shouted, flinging her arms out, trying to grasp whatever could reach him. "I'm coming for you." But the ground beneath her turned slick and soft, like stepping into a void. She felt the shadows begin to tug at her, sinister whispers curling around her mind like vines, urging her to surrender, to join in the dark. She stomped her feet, summoning the remnants of her strength. "Not today!" May screamed, digging her heels into the earth, pushing against the otherworldly force that sought to draw her in. Jace's face flickered in and out of view, eyes wide with fear, pleading with her to understand. The talisman blazed brighter as if fighting against the shadows. "It's too strong!" Jace shouted, tears streaming down his cheeks, a reflection of fear she couldn't bear. "You have to let me go." "No!" The word tore through May, fierce and unyielding. With every ounce of power she gathered, she steadied herself, reaching for Jace. She felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, the abyss threatening to swallow her whole. Then everything shifted. The shadows receded for a split second, revealing a glimpse of clear sky above them, a moment of bright clarity. In that instant, May's instincts kicked in, and she made a decision, one that twisted her stomach into knots. "Look!" she shouted, pointing upward. "We can escape." Jace glanced up, the fear in his eyes momentarily flickering with a spark of hope. And just like that, the connection between them grew stronger, his will fighting against the pull of the darkness. "No! He stays!" The grotesque figure that resembled her father loomed back into view, its smile fanged and menacing. "He belongs to us now." The shadows surged with renewed fury, reclaiming the space that May had fought to clear, rolling forward like tidal waves. The sound of howling laughter erupted, and Jace reeled back, the talisman dimming once more, the power waning as he was pulled deeper. "Mom! I don't say it." The words clawed at her soul. She could feel the weight of their connection slipping, eroding amidst the laughter of the forest. In that moment, May understood the true cost of survival. She had to make a choice. With a primal scream that echoed through the dark, May lunged forward, determined to break through, to defy the darkness that sought to tear them apart. But as she crossed the threshold into the swirling tide, everything snapped into silence. What if she chose to resist? What if the talisman was their ticket out, rather than a curse? But as she reached out to Jace, a chill spread like ice through her veins, and the shadows thickened around them. The choice was twisting, turning, demanding an answer. And then everything went black. Would the forest hold them captive forever, or could a bond forged in love triumph against relentless despair? As darkness enveloped her, May screamed into oblivion, not knowing if she would hear Jace's voice again, or if the shadows would claim them both. The forest throbbed with anticipation, a silence swelling with hunger. The choice had only just begun. What would be the price of their escape? The darkness pressed in heavy and thick. May felt as if she were moving through a murky swamp, her limbs weighted down as if the shadows themselves were pulling her. Panic surged. Could she really have chosen to resist? If she failed, if she let go, what would become of her? Jace's cries echoed in the silence, distorted and distant, yet they drove her forward. She fought through the shadows, molding her fear into determination. "I won't lose you," she yelled into the void. But the forest was alive with mocking laughter, taunting her vulnerability. Then, without warning, sparks flickered in the endless dark, painting the shadows with splashes of muted color. May felt a presence, a figure emerging from the gloom. It was twisted, grotesque, yet eerily familiar. The face bore the unmistakable shape of her father's. "May," it cooed, voice dripping with malice. "Let him go. He is stronger with us than he ever was with you." A wave of nausea crashed over her at the sound. "No. You're not him." The truth hit hard. This creature was a mockery, a puppet twisted from her memories. She couldn't afford to falter. Join us, May. The figure continued, its voice echoing like a siren's song, seducing her soul. You can't save him. You can't even save yourself. The shadows pulsated, thrumming with dark energy, threatening to swallow her whole. But May squeezed her eyes shut and steadied herself. She remembered the warmth of her son's laughter and the feeling of his small hand in hers, remnants of a bond she would rather die than sever. No. I would rather die. She screamed, forcing her way forward. With desperate strength, she clawed against the swirling fabric of darkness, focusing every ounce of love she had for Jace. The talisman glimmered weakly far away, but it was enough. Suddenly light exploded around her, sharp and blinding, forcing her to shield her eyes. For a moment, everything stopped. An overwhelming roar filled her ears, drowning out the laughter, the whispers. She pushed through, grasping for Jace, searching for him in the chaos. Mom! The connection snapped to life. There. A glimmer of light in the darkness, the talisman blazing like a sun. As she stretched towards it, shadows threatened to wrap around her again, their slick tendrils clawing at her ankles. Fight them! She roared. We're not done yet. The shadows shrieked as her voice pierced through, momentarily scattering them. She could see Jace writhing in pain, but the talisman pulsed brighter in response to her cry. Together! She screamed, feeling the bond between them surge. We can break this. Jace's face twisted with effort. His gaze locked onto hers, determination igniting within his fearful expression. Mom, please. He reached for her, and the talisman ignited, swathing them both in blinding light, then a sudden cold shot through May, more intense than she had ever known. The laughter wound back, creating a high-pitched symphony of chaos. Reality itself felt like it was tearing apart around her. The forest throbbed, a living entity aware of their connection, and it wouldn't release them without a fight. What will you sacrifice? The shadowed entity whispered, the voice now 1,000 coiling serpents. To save him? To save yourself? May hesitated, a heavy weight resting in her chest. The air crackled, and the dim forest around them grew malignant. She felt Jace's hands slipping, the distance stretching between them like a chasm. What do you choose? She gasped, trying to keep her grip on the talisman as it dimmed for a fleeting second. Gritting her teeth, she let the forest hear her answer. I choose us. The world exploded into color, a blinding flash that scattered the shadows. But the question remained, at what cost would their bond survive? As the darkness began to recede, she sensed the foreboding pulse of the forest lurking beneath, ready to strike again. Would their love be enough, or was the cost of escape something she couldn't bear? Light flooded the forest, shattering the grip of darkness like a broken mirror. But the moment was fleeting, and the sinister energy roared back, hungry and vengeful. May staggered, squinting against the blinding glare, her heart racing. The laughter, once distant, grew louder, more oppressive. It wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Mom! Jace's voice pierced through the cacophony, strained and desperate. It was close yet maddeningly out of reach. The talisman pulsed in her hand, a beacon of hope amid the growing dread. She lunged forward, adrenaline surging, her feet pounding against the cold earth, each step pushing back against the howl of the shadows. Stay with me. She pleaded, her voice barely rising above the insistent wails of the darkness, but the presence retaliated, rushing at her with whispers that clawed like nails across her psyche. You're not strong enough. You can't hold on. The whispers slithered through her thoughts, each one a lie that burrowed deep. She gritted her teeth, shaking the shadows from her mind. Get out of my head. She screamed, forcing herself to focus on Jace's face, the memory of him smiling, safe and free. The shadows curled, screaming in fury as she willed her way closer to the light. It flickered, the talisman waning momentarily as if sharing in her doubt. She had to fight. She had to believe. As she neared the pulse of light, Jace's figure sharpened in her vision. He lay sprawled before her, surrounded by a veil of darkness, writhing as if fighting invisible chains. Her breath hitched, his face was ashen, eyes wide with terror. She could see the faint outline of his small body trapped in a web of shadow, an intricate prison spun from fear itself. "Hold on." May dashed to him, the talisman flaring back to life in response to her proximity. Its glow turned the shadows away like a flick of a match, and for a moment, the blackness stuttered. But in that moment of reprieve, a deeper voice echoed throughout the woods, cold and mocking. "You think your love can conquer me?" Eyes wide, May felt the weight of despair crashing in again. "Back off!" she shouted, every muscle in her body taut, each heartbeat a war drum. Jace needed her. "Love is weak," the voice taunted, shifting through the trees. "Love doesn't matter here. This is my domain." The shadows lunged once more as if at her command, each tendril a living thing, eager to drag her down. May plunged forward, her heart thundering in her chest. "This ends now," she roared, pouring every ounce of her will into the talisman. It ignited, blindingly bright, splintering the gloom as if daylight had forcefully returned. Jace's hand reached out, fingers straining towards her. "Mom, I need you." She felt the connection between them surge, a shimmering thread tethering their souls together, and with a primal scream, May tore through the thick miasma, grabbing Jace's hand with a fierce grip. But then, a chill ran up her spine. The shadows didn't dissipate, they coiled tighter, their laughter morphing into a chorus of anguished whispers, sinking beneath the surface like spikes driven into flesh. "Give up!" they hissed, and darkness lunged to consume everything. The light from the talisman faltered, dimming as if it were losing the will to shine. "No!" she cried, feeling the panic rise. The grips of despair gripped her lungs, squeezing until she could hardly breathe. "Mom! We can do it!" Jace's determined shout broke through the encroaching dread. His eyes burned with resolve, pure and bright. "Just believe." And in that instant, May understood. The choice wasn't just about survival, it was a testament to love, defiance against the inevitable. But just as they pulled together, the shadows howled in unison. The forest convulsed, the ground trembling beneath them. "What will you sacrifice?" the entity hissed, the forest itself seeming to breathe out with malice. May's heart sank. "We will never give you anything." The air trembled with tension. As the darkness swelled, threatening to swallow them whole, May braced herself, steeling her resolve. This time, she would not falter. Then, like a thunderclap, something broke a sharp divide between light and dark. The forest screamed in agony. And suddenly, May felt a shift, a new presence, darker yet unfamiliar, looming just beyond the veil of shadows. What had she unleashed? The truth hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Would the forest pay the price for her defiance? Or would it lead to salvation or damnation for them both? The shadows surged, an unsettling tide drawing closer, as if the earth itself was a beast awakening with rage. May's heart thundered wildly, every beat a reminder that time was slipping away. Jace's grip was warming, yet she could feel the chill creeping up her spine, wrapping its icy fingers around her resolve. "Mom! Move!" Jace shouted, urgency lacing his voice. The shadows churned, eager to engulf them both. She thrust the glowing talisman forward, its light cutting through the dark, but the blackness rallied, swirling around it like hungry wolves. "Stay close," May urged, pulling him toward her, the talisman pulsating in a rhythm that matched her heartbeat, quickening, intensifying. In that moment, something flickered in Jace's eyes. The light of courage, then it happened, a breach in the darkness. A figure emerged, ghostly and tall, its features obscured by the dense veil of shadow, yet May could see the outline of a twisted smile lurking beneath. The entity bore the traits of everything horrific: thick horns entwined with shadows, hollow eyes glimmering like glass. "Welcome," it played with the word, each syllable dripping with malice. To the end of your resolve. You address my domain, and now you face judgment. The very air thickened with oppressive energy, squeezing the breath from May's lungs. Judgment? May spat back, her defiance burning. We'll never give in. Jace shuddered beside her. Mom, what do we do? There was fear in his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty beneath the bravery. Stand together, May instructed, squeezing his hand like a lifeline. We are stronger than this. The talisman's glow brightened, momentarily forcing the specter back. But as quickly as it recoiled, it lunged again, laughter cascading through the trees, echoing like a haunting melody. Love can't protect you here, the figure hissed. You think that bond will matter in the void? Jace squeezed back, holding her gaze. It matters. The darkness writhed with fury, cutting deeper into their thoughts. May could hear the echoes of things forgotten, regrets, failures, fragile memories blurring the lines of reality. A moment where she couldn't shield Jace from the world, the fears that had haunted her through sleepless nights, cornered into her consciousness by the sinister entity's whispers. Mom, we can fight. Jace's voice sharpened. Together. A surge of determination erupted within May. She would not let the shadows devour him, not like this. Gritting her teeth, she focused on the light. The talisman responded, a bright flare that threw the silhouette backward. The laughter faltered, if only for a heartbeat. Enough. The creature screamed, thrashing in protest. You aren't worthy of this gift. As if amplifying its rage, the shadows clawed at the skies, twisting into grotesque forms, reaching for them, tearing through the fabric of existence as May felt the weight of their wrath. Then came the deafening silence, a moment suspended in time. The shadows paused, waiting, calculating. May's breath hitched as she realized all the darkness was now aware, alive and choosing its targets with surgical precision. Do you wish to trade? The entity teased, its voice slithering into her mind like poison. A sacrifice can tip the balance. A life for your son's safety. The temptation coiled around her heart, squeezing tight. The shadows hungered. Mom, no. Jace cried, his voice full of terror at the suggestion. Don't listen to it. But helplessness gnawed at her. May saw the future unfurl with threats, imagined pain that could shatter Jace's innocence. Make your choice, the creature whispered, the darkness thickening, ready to accept her offering. Sweat pricked May's skin. Could she do it? But in her moment of doubt, a flicker of hope blazed from the talisman, connecting them both, a tether amidst chaos. Mom. Jace's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. I choose you. His words flared in her chest, igniting a vibrant warmth, love, raw and unyielding. No. The figure howled, rage exploding around them, the darkness writhing in pain. It recoiled in confusion, unable to comprehend the strength of their bond as the brightness began to fracture the shadows, and there, in the heart of the chaos, May pushed forward, talisman raised high. Together. But as she charged, the shadows erupted in a violent storm, tendrils reaching beyond, brushing against her skin with icy grasp. The once familiar sounds of the forest twisted into cries for help, pulling her focus, each voice a reminder of what was at stake. Would they both survive? Or had she already lost too much? The ground trembled, and then the forest itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable choice to be made. What horrors awaited them if they pushed too far into the darkness? The moment surged, a whirlwind of shadows crashing against May and Jace. The talisman flickered, a heartbeat away from going dark. As it hummed with energy, May felt the pull of doubt writhing within, whispers of fear clawing at her mind. The figure loomed larger, the twisted smile stretching unnaturally wide. Your love won't save you. It screeched, rage writhing in its voice, reverberating through the trees. You think you can fight me? I am eternal. Shut up. May screamed, gripping Jace tighter as if he were a life raft in these turbulent waters. We will not yield. But the shadows weren't just an enemy, they were a mirror reflecting May's deepest fears. She saw glassy eyes and hollowed faces, memories distorted by anguish. She could almost see herself in that void, an empty shell, a mother too late to protect her child. "Mom." Jace's voice pierced her thoughts. "Don't look at it. Please." Instead of breaking under their weight, she held on to his hand, grounding herself. "Focus on the light, Jace. We're together, we can rise above." With that, the talisman flared again, brighter this time, casting long shadows on the ground. The figure took a step back, its smile faltering, as if the light threatened its very existence. "No. This isn't over." It lunged forward, claws reaching for them, swiping at the air. The forest around them shook a cacophony of howling wind and rustling leaves, as if the trees themselves were warning them of the danger. "Keep it up, Mom." Jace yelled, his voice breaking through the chaos. "I believe in you." May's heart swelled. This child before her was the embodiment of hope, a flickering flame against the encroaching dark. Just as ferocity peaked within her, the ground beneath them cracked violently, revealing a maw of blackness, eager to swallow them whole. "No!" She cried out, pulling Jace to her chest as the darkness lashed out, each tendril a whisper promising safety for surrender, conformity laced with fear. Jace trembled as cold energy rolled off the entity, chilling the air. "What if we run? There's no running from this thing." May's voice was steady, but doubt gnawed at her. The shadows danced around them, daring them to retreat. "We have to face it, Jace." The fog thickened, creeping nearer, twisting around their legs like living creatures. Just then, vivid memories surged through her mind, the moments when she had let fear dictate her choices. It flooded her like ice water, dampening her spirit. "Together, remember." She quivered, urging him on. "We push through." With a renewed sense of purpose, she raised the talisman higher. The shadows shrieked, recoiling like they were burned, and for a moment, the light illuminated everything. Through the glowing path, May saw glimpses of hope, small flickers of light breaking through the shadows, guiding them toward safety, but just as they moved, the dark figures rallied, weaving a barrier of despair. "You think your bond can shield you?" The entity laughed, madness echoing in the depths. "I can take what matters most from you." The forest groaned as an overwhelming dread settled in. This was their last chance. With a deep breath, May steadied herself, focusing on Jace's wide eyes filled with trust. "If we can't escape, then we will make it pay for taking from us." She steadied her stance, the talisman warming against her palm, the very source of her courage, urging her to fight. Shadows surged again, twisting and coiling, but May stood tall, ready to defy the impossible. As she prepared to push forward, the entity sneered, "What if this sacrifice could save you? What of the other one in your heart? Would you give that life?" A silence fell, suffocating, as May's heart thundered violently in response. Caught between dread and desperation, May hesitated. The shadows slithered closer, waiting, hungry for her decision. What choice would she make? Risk everything or succumb to the dark? The path ahead blurred with uncertainty. The shadows converged, a writhing mass longing to engulf them. May's heart raced, each beat a drum in the silence that threatened to absorb all sound. Jace clung to her, eyes wide with terror, yet there remained an unyielding spark of defiance in his gaze. "Mom, please." He pleaded, the desperation in his voice cutting through her self-doubt. "You can't listen to it. I refuse." May shouted, pushing against the insatiable darkness, her grip on the talisman tightening. The air grew thick, pressing in on them like the heavy weight of a storm. The entity's laugh sent a chill down May's spine, harsh and mocking. "What matters most, May? The light you worship, or the heart screaming in your chest? Choice is an illusion." She felt her resolve waver again. Memories of loss surged in like a tidal wave, the faces of loved ones, the laughter now silenced. No, she whispered, but the dark whispers taunted her, picking at her vulnerabilities. The shadows twisted her memories, warping them into haunting images that clawed at her sanity. But Jace yelled again, tearing her from the slippery edge of despair, "Fight it. We need to trust each other, remember?" Holding on to Jace's words, May shook her head violently, trying to dislodge the shadows of doubt that clung to her thoughts. "I'm here. I'm not giving in." With a desperate shout, she raised the talisman higher as it pulsed with light, blinding the malevolent figure standing before them. "You'll never take us." The light splintered the darkness, creating a narrow passage through which hope flickered faintly. The shadows screeched, lashing out, forming a wall of despair that felt almost solid, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Run!" May cried, instinct driving her. Hand in hand, they sprinted into the pale glow, Jace's small feet pounding against the forest floor. The woods around them came alive, branches snapping and rustling, as if the very environment protested their escape, but the entity was relentless, its howling mirroring their desperation. "You can't escape. I'll always be with you," it screeched, shifting the shadows like they were alive, swirling to create a vortex around them. They stumbled forward, breathless, adrenaline surging through their veins like fire. May could feel the talisman heating, becoming a beacon in the engulfing dark, yet the shadows clawed at her back, icy and probing, whispering promises of safety if only she would surrender. "No, no." She fought back, every ounce of her being resisting that call. Through the chaos, they hit a clearing, a small illuminated space where the shadows lost their grip, but May could feel their impatience. It was a momentary sanctuary, frail and weakening under relentless pressure. The light seemed to dim, flickering as they stood, catching their breath. "What do we do now?" Jace gasped, his small voice trembling, looking up at her wide-eyed. We need to find a way to trap it." May formulated, adrenaline blazing in her veins. "We can't keep running forever, we need to fight smart." Just as she turned to survey their surroundings, eyes flicking desperately for some weapon, the shadows crept back, coiling around them like they were alive. May could see the twisted grins forming once more, eager to consume their very essence. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her wrist where the talisman pulsed, as if it was warning her of a greater danger ahead, a looming choice that would make or break everything. May's mouth went dry, catching the weight of that choice hanging above her. If they were to confront the darkness fully, it might demand a sacrifice more profound than she had ever anticipated. "Hold on, Jace, stay close," she shouted, her breath hitching in her throat. But what lay ahead was still unknown, twisted in the tainted promise of shadows. Little did she know, the darkness had one final twist to dangle before her. What would it take to save them both? The forest throbbed around them, shadows stretching and curling with a mind of their own. May squeezed Jace's hand tighter, the talisman pulsing between them, a heartbeat of hope. "We can't let it win, Jace," she said, her voice steely. She had faced down despair too many times to bow now. Suddenly, the darkness surged forward, tendrils reaching out for them. The air crackled, vibrating with the sinister energy that wanted nothing more than to tear them apart. "You'll never escape." The voice echoed, filled with a malicious delight. "You're bound here, forever. We will not give in." May shouted back, her chest tightening with every advancing shadow. The figures moved fluidly, encircling them, but in that moment, a flicker of light shot through the air, illuminating the space with the brightness of 1,000 stars. It felt as if the talisman was alive, roaring in defiance, pushing back at the darkness. "Mom, it's working!" Jace cried, his voice ringing out with excitement. "I know, but we have to be strong together." She could feel their bond, a lifeline pulling her through this chaos. "We face this, together." Jace's face, normally filled with innocence, hardened with resolve. "No one can take me. We're stronger than them." May's heart swelled at his fierce spirit, a pure light amid the encroaching dread. Pointing the talisman forward, she unleashed a stream of light that cut through the shadows, slicing at their hold. The darkness howled, rapidly retreating as May pressed onward. But just when victory felt close enough to taste, the shadows morphed into a cyclone, swirling fiercely, a tempest that threatened to tear them apart. Make a choice. The entity hissed from within the swirling mass, its form bending and twisting, becoming an unsettling visage of everyone May had ever lost. Sacrifice what you hold dear or lose it all. No! Jace cried in terror, stepping back against the icy wind. Panic surged within May. Don't listen to it, Jace. This was the heart of their struggle, a dark temptation designed to fracture them. We have each other, and that matters more than anything. But the forest didn't yield, instead, it pressed closer, suffocating her with doubt. Doubts of whether she could save her son while holding on to the remnants of her past. The whispers turned agonizing, echoing memories of love and loss, weaving sorrow and despair. Together. May shouted, the conviction in her voice breaking through the cacophony, forcing the darkness to listen. We will fight till the end. The air shifted, and the shadows recoiled. Jace's face lit up, filled with the flicker of hope. Mom! Look! In that moment of clarity, May remembered the diary, the stories of the town, the cyclical nature of its haunted history. We can break the cycle. She shouted, the realization dawning on her. If we confront the darkness, we break its power. The shadows lunged again, but May faced them head-on, talisman glowing fiercely. You do not own us. She thrust it forward, its brilliant light igniting the air. The shadows writhed, shrieking as the light shattered them, revealing glimpses of the forest's true form. Beneath the darkness, roots twisted beneath the soil, filled with memories meant to be buried, but May wouldn't let them control her. We choose life. We choose love. She declared, feeling the power behind her words. The talisman vibrated in response, pulsing brighter with each syllable. In that moment, May saw a crack in the darkness, a glimpse of a path they could take, but it beckoned temptingly toward what they had lost. Without hesitation, she stepped forward, grasping Jace's hand. Run! Together, they bolted into the crack, the bond between them a glowing thread leading them through the storm. The shadows clawed at their heels, desperate to reclaim their prey, but the talisman lit their way, illuminating the path toward the clearing. Just a little further. May urged. The darkness shrieked behind them, sound chasing them through the trees. With one last burst of speed, they leaped into light. It was blinding, warmth washing over them as they tumbled into safety, the shadows dissolving like mist under the sun. May gasped for breath, eyes wide with disbelief as they emerged into the open. The woods faded behind them, receding to whispers, and all at once, the air felt lighter. We did it. Jace beamed, his eyes shining bright with relief. Yes. May hugged him fiercely, joy flooding through her. They had escaped the clutches of Pine Hollow. At that moment, the pain, fear, and sorrow felt like distant memories, just shadows fading into the background, echoing stories of battles fought but never forgotten. From that day on, May made a promise. They would leave Pine Hollow behind, carrying with them the talisman not as a burden, but as a beacon of strength, a reminder of their victory over darkness. And as they drove away, she looked back at the fading silhouette of the forest, finally at peace. The ghosts of their past couldn't hold them captive any longer. They were free. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support now. What are you waiting for? Don't let another second pass.